When Charles Day lost control of the flatbed truck he was driving, its cargo of beehives spilled on the roadside, setting loose millions of agitated bees. Charles was trapped inside the wreckage. As the massive swarm attacked, his nephew Michael Brown struggled to free him.
It was stinging me behind my ears, it was down in my shoes, all under my shirt, in my hair. I was saying to myself, get up there to the road, try to get them all off of you, know, and then I thought about Charles down in there, can't get out. So what's the difference? He ain't no different than I am.
Coffee County EMS units were dispatched to the scene of a truck wreck. Sheriff's Deputy Evelyn Taylor arrived first, not knowing anything about the truck's cargo.
Can you imagine getting out of your car and 100,000 bees swarming towards your lights? I didn't realize at that time that the lights and the sirens just aggravated the bees more. The man was trapped in the truck and was receiving numerous bee stings constantly. The other guy said smoke would help keep the bees away from Mr. Day in the truck. And I give him what I had in the car, paper and stuff, to burn. They went into the car with me, stinging me. I started calling, letting everybody know that was responding to be prepared for multiple bee stings. And bees are dangerous. They can kill you.
Started smoking it, and it wasn't helping none. There was too many, and they was all mad.
Within 6 minutes of the call, paramedic Henry Lewis and EMT Johnny Knight arrived on the scene.
It was like any other wreck at first. The only thing that was different is the fact that he had 15 million honeybees in the back of it. The first problem is the fact that he was pinned in. To me, when he was down there for 5 minutes, he was down there too long. It looked like there was possible femur fracture, so you can have blood loss, plus bee stings. He was in a lot of trouble.
He had to be removed from the truck. We were trying to get as much help out there as we could, but yet a lot of people are allergic to bees. If the EMSs or firemen or anyone that was in that group that was allergic to bee stings, they knew not to get out of the vehicle.
Douglas City firefighter Waylon Moore and his partner arrived to begin the extrication. They tried to protect themselves by wearing full turnout gear, but it didn't work.
First thing they hit was my bald head, right up under that helmet. It started stinging me up under my coat, right around my eyes, my arms, got up my britches.
There were so many bees on the back of that ambulance. They were just falling off in clumps. Your ambulance is your best friend because there's everything you work with besides your knowledge. And you couldn't get near it.
I've had people pull guns on me, and you can usually talk to them or else you can respond back with firepower. But these bees didn't respond to anything. How many bee stings does it take before you die? Nobody knows. I know Mr. Day was stung thousands of times.
It ran through our minds several times to get the surgeon out there and just amputate his leg, to get him out. It's better to lose a leg than to lose his life.
By the time a second medic unit approached the scene, they knew to turn off their lights and siren. One paramedic who was allergic to bee stings stayed inside the ambulance, while his partner, Lamar Douglas, went to help.
Lamar was all gung-ho, ready to go down there. It didn't matter if it was bees or not. And I asked him just for his safety. I said, "Are you allergic to bees, Lamar?" He says, "I don't think so." Lamar was down there 30, 45 seconds. When he come back up the embankment, there were just bees all over the side of his face. He was flush red, couldn't talk. His eyes were kind of rolled up in his head. He was in severe anaphylactic shock. the most severe one I've ever seen. Scared me because I've worked with Lamar. I was scared that the airway would close, and that's the worst complication. Once it closes, it's hard to open it back up. He wasn't even on the scene for 5 minutes, and he was already the worst patient. We only had 2 units, 4-man crew, and one of them was going to be useless, Lamar, and the other guy was allergic to bees and knew it. People were pulling up to the accident site, and if you have people start going into reactions out there, you're going to have a disaster.
Mr. Day's father arrived. He went down to the bee truck and helped with them. I was thinking they wouldn't be able to get him out before he was dead.
All right, get him, boy.
By the time rescuers were able to free Charles, he had been pinned in the truck for almost an hour. Around the same time, a water truck they sent for finally arrived.
That helped a lot with the bees when they started spraying them. Calmed a lot of them down. They started going back towards the hives.
We really worked hard to keep Lamar from dying, and his heart rate's already in the 200s.
Normal breather flush. Patient also is finally immobilized. He had an IV established. Both these patients have lactating ranges established. Dextron's on board. 10-3, baseline, both patients.
I looked at Henry, and he just turned real pale. I was scared because we'd used all our medications for allergic reactions on Lamar.
All I could think about was we'd given them all the drugs and I'm fixing to die.
Wheelchair.
Next thing I remember, we were at the hospital.
I'm not sure if it was the bee venom or just fatigue, or probably both. Everybody got a series of shots, and they assessed us real quick, and had to go back to work.
Lamar.
Paramedic Lamar Douglas and the driver of the truck, Charles Day, were admitted to Coffee Regional Hospital under the care of Dr. Romulo Navarro.
I was surprised that Lamar was still alive. Bee sting is sometimes even worse than a rattlesnake. You can die in 15 to 30 minutes if you develop an anaphylactic shock.
He's breathing. He's breathing. Okay, let's go.
Because Charles Day was a beekeeper for many years, he had a high tolerance to bee stings. He was treated for injuries suffered in the accident and released 4 days later.
Lamar, can you hear me?
Lamar Douglas was hospitalized for 8 days.
Hold your breath, Lamar.
I woke up in the ICU about a day and a half later. The doctors have told me they didn't give me much chance of coming out of it. That I was just a very lucky, paramedic.
Then it was sort of like cleanup time. We had to keep the road sealed off for several days due to the fact of the bees. Anyone riding through there, if they had their windows down, the bees would automatically attack.
In the 3 years that have passed, there have been a lot of changes in Charles Day's life.
I got completely out of the bee business. Since then, I've got married again.
In essence, the bees brought us together.
Charles moved to Florida after the accident, where he met Judy Mattis.
I wouldn't wish the wreck on anybody. If he hadn't had that and wasn't down here, I never would have met him. I might not be married. I might not be as happy as I am.
You want to take the billfold out before you go? Come on, John. It just makes me think a little different about everything. Be a little more careful. Help other people a little more. Everybody that was out there went through a lot that night trying to help get me out. And I'd like to say thanks to all of them.
Okay. Here comes Ken.
Paramedic Lamar Douglas developed encephalitis as a complication of his allergic reaction to the bee stings and was unable to return to work for 2 months.
Right now, personally, I just try to stay away from them. I carry extra, medications to help me out in case I get into another situation like that. But I'm just very cautious. I don't run into scenes as fast as I used to.
Anything that would fly and make a buzzing sound didn't agree with me for a good while.
Having bees all over you is not a good feeling unless you're a beekeeper. And I'm a deputy sheriff, not a beekeeper. I think I'll stick to my profession.
We cannot do the patient any good if we become patients. But I really don't know how we could have prepared for it. I don't know if you can. I mean, how many times does a bee truck turn over?